Hi, I'm Diana Giselle Yanez, host of Highly Sensitive Money. I'm a money coach, certified financial planner, and a highly sensitive person who brings money and social justice together. If you're someone who feels deeply, can endlessly think through how one decision affects everything else, or has ever struggled with all the things that traditional financial thinking leaves out, you're in the right place. In this show, I chat with highly sensitive people on how they handle their money and with money experts on how they cultivate social justice in their work. Questions? Please go to allthecolors.net and schedule a free 30-minute call, and I'm happy to share resources on investment management, money coaching workshops, or anything else money and social justice related. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute investment, legal, or tax advice. Listening does not create an advisory relationship, and nothing discussed should be considered a recommendation to buy or sell any security or adopt any investment strategies. In this podcast, we explore ideas. We do not prescribe financial decisions. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host, the advisory firm, or its affiliates. Join us in this episode as we explore money and sensitivity while honoring that all of our well-being is interconnected. Today, I'm joined by certified financial planner, author, and holistic financial wellness advocate, Danielle Howard. Our conversation dives into what becomes possible when we stop treating money as just a numbers problem. Danielle shares how in her more than 30 years in financial services, she brought focus to money stories, identity, behavior, and the deeper meaning behind our financial choices. We explore why knowing what to do is often not enough to create change, how shame can keep people stuck, and why curiosity and compassionate accountability are so important. We also talk about what enough really means, the challenge of learning to spend after a lifetime of saving, and how intentional giving can help us move from guilt towards generosity. Danielle reminds us that financial wellness is not about achieving one perfect number. It is about building a relationship with money that reflects our values, supports our well-being, and allows us to live with greater trust and intention. Well, welcome, Danielle Howard, to Highly Sensitive Money. I'm excited to have you here.
Looking forward to our conversation today.
And Danielle, you and I have met in person a couple of times through Nasruddin, which is an annual gathering of financial planners that I think many are very sensitive. I don't know if all of them, many identify as highly sensitive, but I do see the fact that we go into depth of processing for sure.
Yeah, fantastic group of people, always incredibly deep, rich conversations. You and I've had some really good conversations about a variety of things, and I'm honored to be with you today, Diana.
Thank you. And Danielle, could we start by having you introduce yourself and how you came into financial planning?
My name is Danielle Howard. I've been a certified financial planner since 2010, but I've been in the money business in various iterations for about 30 years, maybe 32 years at this point. Started off in the sales arena like many did at that point. Was brought in by my then current husband. He was the insurance salesperson that every financial plan led to an insurance product sale. I loved the conversations I was having I came in from the marketing standpoint of just trying to bring people into the practice, but I started having more and more conversations with people and was very intrigued by the idea of money histories and money stories, and that money meant something more than just a transaction. And so I started digging into the work of George Kinder and Lynn Twist, and at that point scriptural. I was looking at biblical references and found a lot in there that led me to go, there must be more than this just transactional side of this business. And I really I felt called. I felt like this was something I needed to jump into and talk about different ways of dealing with your money. So that was my start in the business. It's been a weavy, windy road until last May, I sold my practice. And I'm still involved with the current owner and our new team, and have had the wonderful opportunity of transitioning in a way that has felt really aligned with the opportunity to create my part two in life, which I'm still not overly clear on what that may be, but to stay involved with some of our clients, to continue to talk about money with a little bit different vantage point, a little different perspective, go a little bit deeper, explore money stories, money mindsets, the meaning of money in people's lives. So feel very fortunate that I was able to merge and sell to a team that supported me in doing that.
I love that. So you're sharing what it was like at the beginning, and the fact that I remember we spoke of it last year, that you transitioned, right? You transitioned into a new phase of your career where you're really letting go of the practice that you built over many years.
And that has been easy in some ways and challenging in others. I think that your audience, whether that it's other advisors or people who are looking for advisors, there's so many different versions of how people do this business. And I've been very fortunate that I was able to create my business fully aligned with my authenticity. I was able to be very creative and very tuned into what was important about my processes and our way of working with clients. And I had hoped that when I sold my practice, somebody would walk in the door and go, "Oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I want to do it exactly the way you do it. And you've put it all together, and I'm just going to take it from here. Thank you so much." That didn't happen. And at the same time, there's been times that have been hard to let go. It's like you birthed this child, this baby, this financial planning practice, and you had a way of doing it and processes and things in place. And then somebody comes along and like, "I like that part. I like that part. Don't know about this part. But then I've got my own stuff." He was a large enough practice to where he had his own processes and kind of planning. But there was enough value undergirding and alignment that we felt like it was a good match. And I'm still able to speak into that because I do believe our industry is moving more and more towards that idea of, there's so much out there that's commoditized. You can go out there and find an asset allocation that fits, or you can go find your own insurance products. But who's talking to you about the challenges in your financial life, whether you're having to make decisions around how to deal with adult children and how do you support them without enabling them, or how do you make spending decisions as you are heading into retirement, or how do you make career choice changes? So I think that as advisors, we still have a lot of value add that can't be commoditized, and we need to continue to hone our art and pour that forward into the world.
So Danielle, you've mentioned a couple of times of how important it was to be able to do the number side of this, sell the insurance products when they were needed, talking about the number side of it with your children. But really for you, it sounds like the emotional, the financial life planning part of this work is the most important. Can you share an example of like, when did it become clear to you that this is where you wanted to focus your time as a financial planner? Was there a particular client experience?
I wouldn't say it was a client experience. I would say it was probably my own financial journey, and being in the business, and maybe this is part of my version of highly sensitive, is what I was seeing in the industry, it just didn't feel right that every financial plan led to an insurance sale. And so as I sat with that discomfort of there must be something else out there, I started to explore. I wanted to bring more to the conversations with people, asking deeper questions. And I was searching for, has somebody else done this? Is anybody else doing this type of work? And lo and behold, 15, 20 years ago, you start running across other people, Dr. Ted Klontz or George Kinder, and some of those folks, Dick Wagner. And you're going, oh my goodness, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who's feeling like something is broken in this financial conversation. It isn't just a numbers crunching. Here's where you are. Here's the goal where you want to be. Here's how we're going to get you there. But it's about that identity. Who are you around money? Whether it's how you're bringing it into your life or how you're sharing and giving it, how you're investing it and protecting it, how you're spending it. And so with that, looking at what you can do with money and what impact money has coming in and through your life, I think just through experiences and seeing what was available in the world, realized that for me, something was missing. And in order for me to be in this line of work, I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to show up differently. I wanted to listen differently. I wanted to find tools to help me have conversations. And it was great to start finding some folks, Money Quotient or Mitch Anthony's work. There's so much out there that we can glean ideas and concepts and ways of doing things from, that it's been a slow just building on and reiterating what that looks like. And it's exciting to know that there are other advisors out there that in different ways, from the financial therapy world to wealth management, that people are seeing the benefit of doing it differently.
Right, of bringing in a much more holistic approach, right? Looking at the entire person. And one of the things that I know that I bring to my work as a financial planner is that sensitivity, but also the social justice implications of it, right? Of like, where are we each seated in the world that we're living in as society itself is changing in very drastic ways. And now that we've talked about your financial journey as a financial planner, from where you started to where you are today, and seeing that transition, seeing what things continue and what things are changing and navigating that, I really love asking my guest what the financial background of your childhood was and how that may have affected the decisions you made or who you are today with money.
Yeah. Definitely something I've looked a lot at, because if you don't do this work yourself, you're not going to be able to walk anybody else through it. My upbringing was upper middle class. I didn't know that at the time. I probably grew up with a slight scarcity mindset, and that my mom was the last child of 13 and had a scarcity mindset, but very deep work ethic, but she sewed all of our clothes. We shopped at thrift stores. We did not get to go out to dinner. It was a very special treat to go out to dinner. We had everything. We always had good food on the table and family time together and occasional excursions after we'd done our chores to do something fun. Something that I have appreciated about my family upbringing around money is there were conversations about it. We were given an allowance. We put money into the little pink envelopes to put into the basket as the church giving basket came around. We were taught to be generous with our time. You either volunteer or you share part of the money that you have, and you save. I bought my first bike with the money that I earned from babysitting. I learned some hard lessons early on in life from buying things that broke and bought them with my own money, and that was painful. So you learn about quality. So I feel I had a pretty normal, quote unquote, what is normal, upbringing around money. And my mom really didn't want much to do. My dad ran the numbers. He was an engineer. He had an engineering job, but then on the side, he also was working, had stock market stuff. He started to be his own stock picker. He had a stockbroker. I remember a Christmas when the MGM bridge he told us the MGM bridge in Las Vegas collapsed, and we didn't have much of a Christmas that year. And I remember going, and what's the connection here? I don't know, but now I know. Okay, he must have lost a lot in his stock and wasn't able to do as much for Christmas. So hearing stories, understanding the idea that growing up with a very strong work ethic, we had apartments that we would go clean, and we would get a payment for doing that. And later on, my dad actually gifted my brother and my sister and I. It was not worth very much, but in a little apartment building. So I learned a lot. I had a good relationship with money. I remember going to Kiwanis Club picnics where they'd hide money in sand piles and all the kids would get to go dig for it. It was playful. It was fun. Or playing 21 with my cousins where we'd gamble a little bit. But money always was fun for me. I knew I had to earn my own. My parents did not pay for college for me. I was the oldest, a little upset about that because my younger siblings had a lot more help than I did. So I had to work that one out. And then as I've gotten older, my dad has been very transparent. My dad at 92 and mom at 88 are both still living. And they've been very transparent about what they have, how they're doing this aging thing, how they want things to move forward. And that has been, to me, very valuable because I always have believed in if you love your children equally, you will treat them uniquely, and that you want to prepare your heirs. And I feel that my dad has done that in a way. It's been very important for him to make sure my mom is taken care of. And he and I'll have conversations every time I'm in town that we go over stuff. So yeah, I would say I've been very fortunate to have a pretty healthy upbringing around money.
And that must have been so refreshing for your clients in some way, especially as you moved them deeper into financial life planning and really asking meaningful questions around how are you preparing your heirs? It sounds like you've had these mostly continuously positive experiences around money and were able to transmit maybe that hope or that different view to clients who may not have had those experiences. And yet I wonder, did you ever have a client come in with super money avoidant or having a ton of baggage around money? How did you help them navigate it, and how did you relate to their situation because it was so different from your own?
Okay, so yes, I have had clients who are money avoidant in different ways. So the one particular client I'm thinking of he was very good at making it. He was a contractor and built beautiful homes and knew how to flip them and make a lot of money. So he was able to squirrel quite a bit away. When it came to, as he is aging, having the conversations with his kids, that's where the money avoidant came in. So they don't need to know. And so I would start just planting seeds. I'm not going to change anybody. Yeah, I've learned that. I can't fix anybody. I can't change anybody. I can plant seeds. I can ask questions. I can maybe get people thinking and leave with some ideas or thoughts to chew on. So I would ask him questions around, you drive this really expensive car, and he had younger children. He had children older in life. And I said, your son isn't yet driving yet. Would you just give him the keys to this car and let him drive it? No way. And I'm going, that's what you're telling me you want to do with your money, is that if you weren't here talking to me today, your son would get half of what you have, and he's got no guidance on it. And it gave him pause. And so it took a few years, and he was finally like, I think it's time to bring my kids into the conversation about my money. So we have been doing that over the past 3 years. And so that avoidance, and I don't know if it was anything I said, honestly, or if it was a timing thing. His kids are both now pretty successful on their own, and he's seen them instill and put some habits into place that he feels are heading in the right direction. But I think planting seeds, asking questions, staying curious, asking people about their money stories, being willing to be a little transparent and share bits and pieces of mine can be very beneficial. And just that willingness to listen is so important with helping people shift and maybe being willing to look at things differently. I've had clients that it's taken 6 years for a philanthropic conversation. I'll ask people, are you philanthropically inclined? Do you have organizations or concerns that you like to support? Many times we give a little bit. And if I ask the question, have you ever thought about how much is enough? Or would you like to give more? And people have got, I've never been asked that question. So what does it mean to maybe think about that? And sometimes it can be an aha moment if somebody has a health issue or has something major happen in their life. They sell a business. Maybe I do want to give a chunk away or something. But many times I find that it just takes questions over time and staying willing to listen and curious and digging a little bit deeper, cultivating the soil, and eventually something blooms.
And I'm curious for you, how do you, Danielle Howard, financial planner looking towards retirement, how do you think of enough?
I stay in gratitude every day. It's very easy when you are looking at the fall and winter season of your life to get fearful around, do I have enough? I can crunch numbers all day long, and the numbers will show me at this drawdown rate or at this burn rate, or if this happens, or there's so many variables out there. And this is the challenge in our industry, is that I personally think it's not a numbers game. It's a heart and head game. And we need to find sufficiency in ourselves and just know that we're enough, know that there is enough, no matter what happens with the numbers. So for me, that has been about gratitude, about being grateful for the resources I have, knowing that even though I'm quote unquote semi-retired, if I needed to go back to full-time work, I could do that. I'm still capable. I'm still able, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have built up different little nest eggs, whether it's my home equity or retirement accounts or this, that, and the other out there. I'm grateful for that. But any one of those could fall into have some sort of demise at some point. So for me, the enoughness is finding it in myself, which isn't a one and done. I think that's something we all struggle with, that I will be okay. It's having hope and faith and love that all work together to know that I'm good. I may run out of the money, but something else will come into play. So that might be a weird way to look at enough. It isn't. I absolutely hated the commercial where people were walking around with their number under their arm. It was a commercial, I don't know, probably about 7, 8 years ago for one of the big financial institutions. And they were like, how much is your enough? And it was like $2,764. And this person was 1 million. I'm like, oh my goodness, they're so missing the point. It just broke my heart. But that's the way our world is.
And when I'm helping clients with that question, we can look at the numbers, but there's so many unknowns. Sometimes I tease them. If we just knew when, because I have some clients that their goal is to die with zero, but you don't know when you're going to die, right? I understand wanting to spend down your assets because you don't have any heirs and you don't know when that's going to happen. So it's like navigating that uncertainty and the fact that you do want to have as much life as possible when you're healthy. And you also want to take care of yourself when you're not healthy. And like, how do you move with that?
Or I have a couple of lady clients, widows, that are big givers. And I so appreciate their heart for giving. And I will say, I want you to have the capacity to give. And I also need to look at, how do I keep a roof over your head, and how do we make sure you're taken care of? And so there is that certain element of numbers, and both of these gals have very deep faith lives, and their children are fine. They're not concerned about leaving money to their kids. So it's just navigating that. Yeah, how long are you going to live? And we can crunch the numbers, and every year we'll make some adjustments based on this, that, and the other. So to honor who they are, that they are givers, that is something that they are passionate about and called to do and want to do. And balance that with, I want to make sure that you have enough to where you're not living on your kids' couch. And just constantly asking them, okay, maybe we might need to sell the house at some point because you have a lot of equity. I never want you to get into a corner where we've given away all the liquid assets and all you have left is, your Social Security and the equity in your home. So are you okay with maybe in 4 or 5 years selling your home and freeing up? So I want to be a thinking partner. And I think that's one of our biggest jobs, is to be that thinking partner and to help them play out the what ifs, and knowing that there are so many unknowns and uncertainties. And then the life quakes happen and things that we didn't expect, and got to roll with those too.
Definitely. I like that term, life quakes.
Yeah.
One of the questions that you asked before we started recording was, what is highly sensitive money? And I want to start going into that topic of high sensitivity. The best way I can describe high sensitivity has an acronym of DOES. D is for depth of processing. So here's a question, here's a numbers question, and here are all of the other variables that are included. And here is all of the context, your historical, generational context, right? That's like the depth of processing. O is for overwhelm, because many highly sensitive people have a tendency to get overwhelmed given that there is so much context and the depth of processing is so deep. E is for empathy or emotional depth of resonating very deeply with other people. And S is for sensory sensitivity.
Okay.
Right? It's too hot. It's too cold. There's too much noise. I've been with people too much. I haven't been with people. And they found high sensitivity across many species. The term first came about in 1981 by Elaine Aron, who's a researcher. And there's this really funny example that when they're counting certain type of fish or certain type of deer, they always have to increase it by 20%, because the highly sensitive in that species, in that population, will look at the sensor and say, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to touch it. So they're just more aware of their surroundings, maybe a little bit more hesitant, but also more cautious in a way that can be positive, right? When I think of the term highly sensitive money, I'm focusing it really on many of the people that are attracted to my work, to this podcast, get overwhelmed when it comes to money decisions. There's so many things to consider. There's so many unknowns. Also, I focus on social justice. Part of my background is as a woman of color growing up in the US. I was always so aware of that, of the privilege that I had with my skin color, the fact that I spoke English, that I was born in the US compared to my family in Mexico. And bringing that aspect into my work as a financial planner made it possible for me to stay in this industry. After George Floyd was murdered and there was this big awakening around DEI in the US. So another thing to note around social justice is that there's a higher than average number of people in social justice spaces that are highly sensitive because of that deep empathy. We're likely to call us into social justice work because other people's pain can feel so personal inside of us. So for me, highly sensitive money, it's both addressing the overwhelm around money and addressing the desire for justice, while I'm always encouraging clients to include themselves, their own financial well-being in the justice that they're seeking.
Okay. All right. Now I can appreciate that. And I would say that the work that now they've done with behavioral finance and money personalities and all the research that has gone on out there, that everybody falls somewhere on the continuum, and that we as advisors will always, some people will engage in doing a financial plan. They'll get us all the information we need. They'll get it all to us right in a timely manner. They'll be at the meeting. They'll, sit down and work through everything and answer all the questionnaires. And it's just like, boom, wow, why can't we get more of those lined up at the door? Those are the easy ones to work with. But I would say 75 to 80%, maybe more, are somewhere else on this continuum where you feel like, how can we reach these people? How can we make them feel more comfortable? How can we help them feel safe? I know Susan Bradley has done this work on, client communication. What makes you feel comfortable and productive in a meeting? Is it me giving you more numbers? Is it me giving you less numbers? We are trying as advisors to learn how to accommodate and speak into people's lives that I think speaks to this sensitivity. We can tell by body language in a meeting, somebody sitting back and not wanting to give us any information, and really we can read body language. We can see things in people's eyes. And then what do we do with that? And how do we continue to evolve and work with people to help them move through whatever they're needing to work through to become the next best financial self they can be, and understand what financial health is. Why do people know what to do but not do it? There is so much. And yeah, we're dealing with a client right now. It's like, my goodness, trying to get this guy to give us his pay stub and statement from his 401k has taken 3 months so far. It's like, this is not. And then when do we say, you know what, you're maybe not ready for this? Or what can we do to help you move through this? So I think that's a challenge in our industry for those of us who are ourselves highly sensitive and then wanting to walk alongside clients in a way that they're not getting from other advisors or may have experienced in the past.
Yeah, that's such a great example of clients knowing what to do, but then not doing it, not actually getting to the fact of doing it. I think I compare this to exercising or nutrition, right? We know what we should be eating, we know what we should be doing with our bodies, and yet the actual doing of it can be hard. And that's where we get to be accountability partners.
Yeah. That's huge. So my hope is that, along with giving the opportunity to meet with other advisors that are working in these ways, and the conversations that we're having and coming up with, whether it's new processes or new ways of engaging with clients, that we are changing the industry small baby steps at a time, and that we keep an eye on our why. It is a social justice. To me, it's the disparities between the have and the have-nots is growing every day in monumental ways. And how do we help people build on their wins to become who they want to be, not who society says they need to be around money? I think there's a lot of shame and blame in the financial world with clients. Well, we told you should be saving $100 and putting it towards your Roth IRA. Why didn't you do it? Oh my God, that is so painful. Why do advisors go that route? And instead of exploring what may be keeping somebody from doing what is in their own best interest. And again, we're not going to set a financial plan in front of somebody and they go, oh, it's sure. This sounds great. I'll eat cat food and put all my money away for retirement. No, it's about, just showing them options, walking through what their opportunities are, figuring out why this money stuff is important, learning about their scripts around money. That's one of the things that I'm doing more of, is workshops around exploring your money scripts, about understanding your identity, whether it's around how you earn money, give money, share money, spend, save, invest, all of that. And not only look at the goals and the processes, but the identity that you need to have if you're going to attain those goals and follow through with those processes. So with the identities, if it's something that is not who you are right now because of the scripts you have in your head from growing up, or your DNA, or the combination of life experiences, what is going to be your new rewritten script, or your new and behavior patterns and the accountability that goes with it, and your safety nets and your support systems? And how do you start creating that new identity so you are that person and step into...
I want to pause there, because we were talking about how behavioral change, right? And I'm thinking of a book, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
That's exactly where this is from. Yep.
And
Yep.
I believe The Power of Habit from Charles Duhigg also talks about this around if you want to build a habit, if you want to build a way of being, it needs to be an identity change, right? So
Yep.
going from someone who sees themselves as a spender to someone who sees themselves as a saver, you can't go from one to the other overnight. There's a
Yep.
lot of mini steps in shifting your identity.
Yeah, that's exactly. And so powerful. So if we have advisors can maybe not put as much focus on, oh, what are your retirement goals? And oh, you need to save, you put money in your Roth IRA or max out your 401k, is to really help clients understand their identity and not to shame them, not to, blame them or anything like that, but just that awareness and then to explore. That's it's been serving you for a reason. And how do you want to create an awareness around that and maybe start looking at what a new identity would look like? We had one of our clients many years ago. She's actually a therapist. She caught on really quick. She was like, "Oh my God, I can see this so clearly now." And she has been one of our biggest cheerleaders as far as you guys were able to help me create an awareness around my upbringing around money and where I got this need to go spend money. She loved clothes, she loved shoes, she loved to go shopping, and was wondering why her credit card bill was so high and why she couldn't put any money aside. And she was able to create an awareness around this and shift it and then start going. It was simple little things like, okay, if you put something in your cart, leave the cart, do a loop around the store and come back and go, do I really need this? And it was mind boggling. It completely changed. And then I'd go out to my car and use the app to put what I would have spent on that sweater and put it into my savings account. And I have become a saver. I am a saver now. And so I was like, oh my God, it actually works.
It's bringing that dopamine hit, not from the buying of the thing, but from saving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
and
I've seen.
I was just going to say, it's getting harder and harder for people. I finally downloaded Apple Pay and it was like, oh my gosh, I can see where people run into problems with this because it's so easy to just double click and it's in your hands now. And we've gotten so disconnected from our money. And so that whole, how do we reconnect with our financial decisions? How do we reconnect with the dopamine hits and the parting with our money, that it's a little bit of pain before we get the benefit? And everybody, the way they are continuing to change the financial tools, there's just no grappling with the connection between our head and our wallet. It's getting farther and farther apart.
And I've seen it on the other side when clients do step into retirement, how hard it can be to start spending down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
After a lifetime of being a saver, learning how to say, now I may actually dip into principal because I want to take my entire family on a vacation.
Yep. And that's where we feel, again, the opportunity to connect with people and walk them through those questions. We can show it on the numbers. Yes, you have enough to do that this year. And they still won't want to do it. And it's okay, what's holding you back? What are the fears around this? If we spend it, we won't have to spend it. What if something happens later? It's like we can play that out numbers wise. But it is a identity. I spend my money with joyful intention within safe boundaries. I love that affirmation. It's intentional spending. It is thoughtful. It is meaningful. It is aligned with your values. And if you're using it for that, use it. Have a wonderful time. Enjoy it.
give yourself permission to really
Yep.
follow through with what you desire.
Yeah. I call them soul needs or ego desires. If they're soul needs, we want to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful distinction. As we're coming to the end of our conversation, there's one topic that we talked about, I think it was a year ago at the last NAS gathering. And it comes around giving, right? How do you help people separate any giving that's motivated by guilt versus generosity?
Good question. I'll ask when I do workshops for donors and we go through motivations. And I have a whole list of motivations. It may be, do you want your name on the side of the building? Is it ego related? And it's not right or wrong. It just is. And it is an awareness of it. And guilt is definitely one of them. And I think sometimes with social justice, that can be a big one. I don't know what you find in that, but people will feel guilt. I've got more, people have less. And I don't know that giving out of guilt is necessarily wrong for a moment, but to move towards that giving out of generosity. I know George Kinder talks about in his 7 stages of money maturity, the 7th stage is moving to that place of aloha where money just moves through your life in a generous way, and everything you do is out of a generosity mindset, whether it's paying for your own groceries, being grateful that you have the money to buy your own groceries, or whether you're sharing something of what you have with an organization. So I don't necessarily know that giving out of guilt is something I am going to be able to move somebody from. But to me, it's just having people connect with their motivators and ask them if that sits with them and do they feel okay about that in their heart. And if they don't, then it's something to explore. If they're okay with it, then okay, you're at that place right now. But yeah, so I think it's just helping people understand what their motivation is and knowing that there are other motivations, and if they want to look at shifting or moving or what that would maybe look like.
I really like that, because it's not about saying guilt is always bad. Sometimes guilt can be an activator.
Yeah.
Right? That wakes people up and shows them a different side of themselves. And it's on a client by client basis, really, of, are you happy with what motivates you? If you're not, or if you have the idea that, like, in order to be a worthy person, you have to be Mother Teresa, maybe that's not going to be a super helpful idea. Maybe you're going to spread yourself too thin. But if that motivates you, and you're doing it within a way that also feels responsible towards your needs and those of, like, people who depend on you, maybe it is a good idea. So it's all very unique to the person.
Yeah. I know for me personally, again, I've been doing this a while, but really looking at what is my intentional giving plan. So if I kind of plan it out and I plan on, these are the organizations I'm showing up, whether I'm doing the boots on the ground work or whether I'm on a board or whether it's a international organization that I just really believe in. And I know how much I want to be giving to those. And then I carve out something for, the GoFundMes that pop up and I want to. And then the little stuff on the sideline. I've got a framework to do my giving within. And again, it's not set in cement and it has evolved and changed from year to year. But then I am able to say no to certain things without feeling guilty. A case in point, I was at a fundraiser, a live fundraiser in early May, and they have the tables. You sit at a table, you have dinner. They've got the silent auction, you've done that. And then they do the paddle raise. Who wants to give $50,000? Who wants to give 20? Who wants to give? And I'm giving on a monthly basis. It already gets deducted out of my checking account. And they were coming down to the $50. And I was tempted to raise my paddle because everybody else around me was raising the paddle. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm already giving $50 a month. So I don't need to raise and I felt a little guilty about not raising the paddle for one more 50. But I think it helps if we have somewhat of a plan that has some latitude built into it, but it does give us a metric or a litmus test to kind of do our giving in a way that aligns with who we are, what's important to us, and in ways that's okay. I'm going to give out of my donor advised fund this year. I'm going to contribute to my donor advised fund this year, and kind of come up with more intentional strategies around our giving instead of just feeling guilty about something and writing a check. You can let go of the guilt when you have a plan.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it. Let go of the guilt when you have a plan. Thank you, Danielle, for sharing your story today as a financial planner, as someone who I think you're on the cusp of whether you identify as highly sensitive.
I definitely see myself as identifying as highly sensitive now that I've seen heard your version of it. I was just thinking again, for those of us in this industry who look at the industry and see so much that is broken, to me, you have to be sensitive in order to see the brokenness. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate the work that so many of our compatriots are doing in this, because we see something that maybe we can tweak just a little bit, one conversation at a time.
That's beautiful. Thank you. This conversation brought light to the fact that financial wellness is not just about making the right decision. It is about understanding the stories, identities, fears, and hopes that shape the way we relate to money. Danielle's perspective reminds us that knowing what to do is only one part of change. We also need curiosity, patience, and enough compassion to ask what may be getting in the way. Whether we are learning to save, giving ourselves permission to spend, preparing the next generation, or trying to give with more intention, the work is deeply, deeply personal. It's such a pleasure to have Danielle join us and share the wisdom she has developed over her 3 decades in financial planning. Her invitation is not to chase one perfect number, but to build a financial life that feels aligned, sustainable, and rooted in who we are becoming. Thank you for joining me on Highly Sensitive Money. I'm Diana, and I hope this episode helped you see how money and sensitivity can work together while honoring our interconnected well-being. We have the power to create a system where everyone's needs are met. If you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to leave a review and share this episode with someone who could benefit. Your support helps this message reach more people navigating their own financial journey. A thank you goes to Mikey Q for the music and Juan Antonio Nunez for producing. For more resources on bringing money and social justice together, sign up for my monthly newsletter over at allthecolors.net. I also invite you to schedule a free 30-minute call where we can talk about money coaching, investment management, and all things money and social justice. Remember that all investments involve risk, and decisions should be made based on your individual circumstances, ideally in consultation with a qualified professional. Until next time, remember that your sensitivity and deep thinking is your superpower.